New York 1901 is a beautiful and richly complex tabletop game for 2 to 4 players, in which you're trying to score the most amount of points by constructing, demolishing, and then rebuilding skyscrapers on the famous streets of New York City. On each player's turn, they can do 2 things. First, they can acquire new land. To do that, they would select one of the 4 available lot cards in the open market. Let's say Brown decides to take this blue piece here, and then the open market is replenished with a new lot card from the deck. So Brown has just acquired this blue lot here that's shaped like that. So now they can take one of their workers and place it on any lot on the board that matches this. So let's say they put their worker right here. The worker signifies that that lot is owned by Brown. The other thing that Brown gets to decide whether they do or not on their turn would be to construct a new building on land that they've acquired. This may even involve demolishing some of their previous buildings. So let's say, for example, Brown wants to build this building, and to do so, they'll demolish these 2 buildings. These 2 buildings are now off the board and completely out of play, and this new building is constructed on the lots that Brown had already owned. Buildings, like workers, don't have to sit on all the parts of the lots, but they do need to sit on at least one part of the lot to maintain ownership. In other words, this building is sitting on at least one part of these 2 lots, so Brown still has ownership over those 2 lots. Brown is awarded 8 points for constructing that building and gets to advance their Empire State Building that many spaces on the scoring portion of the board. In the game, each player has the same 18 skyscraper tiles as all the other players. They must first use their bronze level of buildings until they accumulate at least 6 points. Then they can start to use their silver level buildings until they reach 18 points, in which then gold level buildings become available to use as well. Each player also gets their 3 wild cards. If you don't use them, they're worth points at the end of the game. However, if you do use them, hopefully they will help you earn more points than if you had held on to them. There are also 4 legendary buildings that anyone in the game could build, but they can only build 1 legendary building per game, and they have to own at least enough land to build these ginormous buildings. Then they get to put their king token on it, signifying that in this case, Brown has ownership over the Woolworth building. For each game, you randomly select 3 of the 5 Streets of New York bonus cards. In this case, I have Cedar, Wall Street, and Broadway. For example, whoever has the most amount of buildings built on Broadway gets additional points at the end of the game. And if that weren't enough, you can even choose to play games with bonus challenge cards, adding yet another layer of complexity to the game. It's mind-boggling how deep the strategy goes in this seemingly simple game, and how many factors you'll have to keep in mind to keep yourself ahead of other players when tallying up points at the end of the game. Not to mention the spatial reasoning skills you'll need to tap into. And with gameplay lasting 30 minutes to an hour, this is the kind of game, as I like to say, you gotta put on the old architectural thinking cap.